Today, we're going to explore a huge question, one that really gets to the heart of what faith is all about. What are we, really? And what is religion actually asking of us?
You know, for a lot of people, religion can feel like this heavy backpack. It's full of rules and duties that we have to lug around our whole lives. But what if that's not the point at all? What if faith is less about trying to become something you're not, and more about protecting what you already are?
Okay, so to really get into this, we need to understand two key ideas. On one side, we have taklif. That's the word for a difficult, burdensome duty. It's the feeling of having to carry that heavy backpack. But on the other side, there's this idea of fitrah. And fitrah is our natural, built-in disposition. Think of it as the factory settings for the human soul. And the whole debate really boils down to one question. Which one of those is our starting point?
So here's our game plan for today. We'll start by poking at that idea of a difficult duty. Then we'll figure out what the real debate between faiths is all about. We'll use a cool metaphor of 3 canvases, then unpack what it means to preserve the masterpiece inside us. We'll look at the evidence for this in the Quran and land on what might be the simplest command you've ever heard.
All right, let's jump in with that first idea. Is our purpose in life about getting something new, or is it about protecting something we already have?
I mean, really think about that for a second. Is life a struggle to gain goodness, to acquire virtue from scratch? Or is it a mission to guard a treasure you were handed the moment you were born? Because your answer to that question changes, well, it changes everything about how you see the world.
Now, this is where things get really interesting. You'd probably think that the biggest arguments between religions are about God, right? But the source material we're looking at makes a pretty bold claim.
Get this, the fundamental disagreement, the place where all the paths diverge, isn't about the details of divinity. It's about humanity. It's about how you defined us. Because once you decide what a human being is, everything else, the purpose of life, the role of God, the path to salvation, it all just falls into place. To make this super clear, our source gives us this brilliant metaphor. Just imagine the human soul at birth is like a painter's canvas. How different worldviews see that canvas tells you everything you need to know. Okay, so in the first view, you're not starting with a fresh canvas. No, this canvas is already stained, maybe even corrupted. The idea is that humanity is born fundamentally flawed, maybe even as an enemy of the truth. So your first job, before you can do anything else, is a massive cleanup project. You have to scrub that stain out first. Then you have the second view. Here, the canvas is perfectly clean, but it's totally blank. You're born neutral. Not good, not bad, just a blank slate full of potential. So your life's work is to go out into the world, find truth, find virtue, and painstakingly paint it onto this canvas, stroke by stroke. You start with nothing, and you have to create it all. And then there's the third view, which just flips the whole thing on its head. In this perspective, the canvas isn't stained, and it isn't blank. It's already a finished masterpiece. You are born a perfect, complete work of art, with a love for truth already painted into your very being. Your mission isn't to fix it or paint it. Your mission is to be a curator, to protect it, preserve it, and keep it safe from anything that might damage it.
Now, if you're a curator of a masterpiece, you're going to use a different vocabulary, right? It's all about preservation, not creation. So let's look at 3 key terms from the Quran that totally unlock this way of thinking.
First up is the word Hanif. This basically describes someone who is naturally wired to lean towards truth and goodness. The Quran points to Abraham as the perfect example of a Hanif. It wasn't some title he earned, it was a description of his default setting. It's saying we are all built from the ground up to love what's true. Next is taqwa. Now, this is often translated as fear of God, but the root of the word is actually about shielding or preserving something. So taqwa isn't about cowering in fear. It's the conscious, active work of protecting that masterpiece inside you, of putting up a shield to protect your heart from anything that could tarnish it. It's an act of self-preservation. And finally, we have qalb salim. This means a sound or unblemished heart. And the Quran says that on the final day, the only thing that will matter is returning to God with a qalb salim. So the whole point of life isn't to build a brand new heart. It's to bring back the pure, sound one you were given in the first place, completely intact. Okay, so this masterpiece idea, it sounds beautiful, right? But is it just a nice theory, or is it actually woven into the Quran? Well, according to our source, the evidence is right there in the text. There's this chapter in the Quran called At-Teen, and it tells a fascinating story. It says we were created in the best stature, the absolute peak of creation. But then it says we can be returned to the lowest of the low. But, and this is the absolute key, it immediately gives an escape clause, except for those who keep their faith and do good deeds. This implies that falling is not our destiny. It's what happens when we fail to preserve that perfect original state. And then there's another super short, super powerful chapter called Al-Asr, and it makes this one sweeping statement. Indeed, mankind is in loss. Now, on the surface, that sounds pretty pessimistic, doesn't it? But just think for a second about what the word loss actually means.
Exactly. You literally cannot lose something you never had. If we are in loss, that means we must have started with something incredibly valuable, a huge spiritual treasure. And that treasure is our fitrah, our sound heart, our inner masterpiece. The whole human struggle, then, isn't about earning a treasure. It's about trying not to lose the one we were already given.
So after all of this, what's the big takeaway? If religion isn't about transforming into someone new, but about preserving who you've always been, well, then the final command becomes something incredibly simple and, honestly, pretty profound.
There's a saying of Prophet Muhammad where he says he was sent with the easy, truth-inclined faith. That's the opposite of a taklif, a heavy, burdensome duty. The whole point is that it's supposed to feel easy and natural because it's designed to align perfectly with our factory settings. It's not supposed to be complicated. And really, that's the bottom line. The message isn't a complex set of instructions to become something you're not. The message is actually the simplest thing in the world. Be yourself. Be the masterpiece that you were created to be.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. In a world that is constantly trying to change us, to repaint our canvas, to make us into something else, what does it actually mean to simply preserve who you are, to protect that original masterpiece within? It might just be the simplest and the hardest thing we'll ever do.